Heartwarming moment, little girl's plea exposed as millionaire father arrives to save the day. The sun hung low over the bustling park, painting the sky in strokes of burnt orange and flaming pink. Laughter echoed between trees, children ran wild, and yet one little girl stood apart, her small frame trembling with an intensity that jolted the air around her. The crowd around her, a smattering of people, caught in their own worlds, failed to notice the urgency in her wide, tear-filled eyes. Desperately, she clasped a tattered teddy bear, its fur matted and worn, much like her little heart, longing for salvation. "Mister. Please!" she shouted, her voice cracking like an old vinyl record, barely making its way through the joyful chaos. Instinctively, heads turned her way, drawn by the tone of panic laced with innocence. The distant sounds of nearby laughter faded into almost a haunting echo as the girl raised her tiny arms, and that's when the oddness began to swirl around her. A shadow grew as a black limousine slid silently into the park entrance, the polished metal glimmering like a shark's tooth beneath the fading light. A sudden hush fell among the onlookers, who now exchanged apprehensive glances. Could it be? The door opened with an exaggerated flourish, revealing a figure obscured in the haze of evening sun. Heads leaned in, curiosity prickling the air. Who would step out, grand and possibly sinister? From the depths of that vehicle, a tall man emerged, the kind whose presence twisted an air of mystery around him. Clad in an immaculately tailored suit, he wasn't just an ordinary father. Overhead, clouds churned ominously, casting fleeting shadows on the ground as he strode forward, each step thumping with deliberate confidence. The little girl's wide eyes, once filled with despair, flickered with a spark of hope. Who was he? And why did it feel like the wind whispered secrets as he approached? The moment felt electric. The crowd's whispers swirled like leaves caught in a whirlwind, and tension gripped the onlookers' throats. Murmurs of gossip and disbelief bounced off the park's trees. "That's him, isn't it?" one voice barely dared to utter, sending shivers down spines and causing more heads to nod in hesitant acknowledgement. "The millionaire. He can fix anything." The girl's heart raced as she took a step closer to the towering man, hope mingling with dread. Would he hear her plea? Would he unlock her dreams or shatter them, just like that tattered bear clutched so tightly in her arms? Then, in that moment of breath-held anticipation, he locked eyes with her. The world fell silent, as if the universe itself paused to witness the unfolding. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As the little girl stood speechless, the air around them thickened with visible questions. What had brought him to this moment? Was it fortune or fate? The ground beneath her felt unsteady as footsteps approached, the whispers around them growing louder, pooling uncertainty and excitement in her chest. Just as their worlds were about to collide in this pivotal moment, a sudden crash echoed through the park like the snapping of a twig, drawing the attention of all. Eyes glanced away, and the millionaire paused, his expression shifting from determination to concern. What had just happened? What danger loomed in this seemingly heartwarming reunion? The air crackled with uncertainty, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats, including the little girl. A burst of panic rippled through the gathered crowd as the sound of the crash reverberated in the air. It resonated like a thunderclap, shaking the very foundations of that fleeting moment between hope and despair. The little girl's grip on her teddy bear tightened, knuckles white against worn fabric. She was terrified, her heart racing as she scanned the park for the source of the chaos. The millionaire's eyes, once softened by concern, narrowed into sharp angles as he shifted his focus away from her. He turned, revealing the obsidian outline of the car, now a contrasting figure against the brightness of the sunset. The crowd twitched like a body responding to an electric shock, whispers morphing into shouts laced with fear. "Look out!" A voice screamed from the back, causing the onlookers to jerk and scramble in every direction. The tension in the air thickened like fog, clinging to breath and thoughts. Was someone in danger? Was this an accident, or was something far more sinister unfolding? The little girl's heart pounded furiously. She was suffocated by uncertainty. Her eyes blinked, seeking answers as a figure emerged from the foliage, a dark silhouette weaving through the chaos. It was a man a good foot shorter than the millionaire, but carrying an ominous presence. He held something in his hand, glinting in the dying light, and the atmosphere thickened with dread. "Wait!" shouted the millionaire, his voice booming like an authoritative wave, simultaneously cutting through the bedlam and demanding attention. He stepped forward, the aura surrounding him shifting once again from savior to protector. The girl could feel the air electrify as tension snapped within the crowd, everyone taking a step back. What had they stumbled into? As the man in the shadows approached, a disconcerting calm blanketed the onlookers. A sense of natural instinct took over, curiosity mingled with fear as they stood, paralyzed by the impending confrontation. The millionaire took another step, now completely blocking the path of the approaching figure, a sharp line drawn in the sand. He was prepared, full of intent, yet his heroic stance was shadowed by uncertainty. "Who are you?" the millionaire demanded, voice steely but reverberating with an undercurrent of concern. The little girl watched, her fragile frame trembling in hope and fear. Who would protect and who would threaten? The man chuckled darkly, each sound twisting the hope that had just begun to blossom in her chest. "You think you can stop me?" The voice was low, dripping with disdain. "No amount of money can shield you from the truth, or from what's about to happen tonight." Gasps erupted, the crowd's collective breaths caught as they grappled with the magnitude of his words. For a moment, all was still. Then, as if a dam had broken, voices raged, cries for help echoed, and chaos reigned as people began to back away, seeking cover. The millionaire stood unyielding, his eyes blazing bright with purpose. "I won't let you hurt her," he shouted, protective instincts racing to the forefront as adrenaline surged through him. But what were this stranger's intentions? What game was he playing? The little girl, heart racing and trembling, sensed the stakes rising. Was she just a pawn in a twisted game already set into motion? The intensity of the moment wrapped around her like heavy chains, each second stretching into eternity. And then, a chilling thought gripped her. The millionaire wasn't just here to save her, he was trapped in a web deeper than anyone could imagine. Before anyone could respond, the stranger lunged, a deadly glint in his hand. Chaos erupted once more as the crowd erupted into screams, the world dissolving into panic. What was about to unfold? The little girl could only watch, fear coursing through her veins, as the lines between safety and danger blurred irreversibly. Would fate truly be on her side? The stakes were rising, and the night was only just beginning. What secrets would unravel, hidden beneath the surface of the shadows? The crowd erupted in chaos. People scrambled in all directions, desperate to escape the impending danger. The millionaire stood firm, legs planted like a statue, ready to face whatever darkness came their way. The man charged forward, his face twisted in a cruel smile. "You think you can save her? This is bigger than you." Suddenly, the glint in his hand became clearer. It wasn't just a knife, it was a sleek, menacing blade that caught the last rays of sunlight. Gasps tore through the audience like a wave, and the little girl's breath caught in her throat. "Get down!" shouted the millionaire, lunging towards the girl, hands outstretched. He moved with purpose, like a parent desperate to protect a child from unseen horrors. The weight of his resolve pressed heavily against the palpable fear in the air. Time slowed as the man's eyes glinted with madness, an unsettling mixture of delight and fury connecting him to the terror he intended to unleash. The action exploded. The man lunged, slashing through the air with blinding speed. But the millionaire dove in front of the girl, taking the weight of the imminent attack upon himself. She gasped, heart pounding. Would she witness a nightmare so many others had faced before, tragedy unfolding right before her innocent eyes? In one swift motion, the millionaire deflected the blow, knocking the weapon from the attacker's hand, sending it skittering across the dirt. The crowd gasped, a collective sigh of disbelief that a mere mortal could push back against the darkness. But the man wasn't done. He swiftly pivoted, throwing a punishing punch that caught the millionaire off guard. The millionaire staggered back, a pained grunt escaping his lips. The crowd again erupted with cries and screams, but something else flickered through the fear, the spark of hope. The man's face transformed into a mask of rage, his eyes darkened, and his hands clenched into fists. Was it worth it? He hissed, addressing the millionaire directly. You're blinded by foolish ambition, thinking you can control everything around you. You have no idea what you've awakened tonight. As the two circled each other, anticipation crackled in the air. The little girl's teddy bear fell from her grasp, landing in the dirt, forgotten in the chaos. She could barely breathe, her hope now wedged beneath despair and bewilderment. The shadows seemed to whisper secrets, dancing around her tiny frame, wrapping her in an embrace of uncertainty. Without warning, the millionaire lunged forward again, grappling with the man. They fell, tumbling to the ground, throwing dust into the air. The crowd held its breath, positioning itself on the edge of terror and exhilaration. Help him! A voice rang out. The little girl's wide eyes searched the crowd, her spirit urging people to intervene. Yet, as the struggle continued, a new fear tightened around her heart. Who else was involved in this twisted game? The whispers grew louder, shadows lengthened, and the park turned into something more sinister. She could feel it, all those eyes looking, watching the spectacle unfold, some with dread and others with glee, as if they savored the chaos. Then, in a sudden snap, something shifted. From the chaos, a figure emerged, cloaked in darkness yet strikingly familiar. The girl squinted, hope igniting as she realized who it was. But was this person a savior, or another threat? Let her go. The voice commanded, sending a chill racing down her spine. Who had returned? Would they bring salvation or new darkness? The girl's heart surged with questions, fear merging with uncertain hope. As she stood frozen, a profound feeling settled in her chest. Something monumental was just about to unfold. Would it tip the scale toward light or draw them deeper into the shadows? The familiar figure stepped forward into the waning light, their presence electrifying the air. Shadows clung to them like a second skin, obscuring details that could have revealed either comfort or menace. The crowd was momentarily silenced, riveted by the revelation. The girl's mother, long presumed lost, had returned. Mom. The girl whispered, confusion coloring her tone as hope flickered and dimmed like a dying ember. Stay back. The millionaire shouted, his eyes darting to the woman, then back to the man still grappling on the ground. The face of the attacker twisted in fury, caught in the throes of rage. Yet, to the girl, her mother looked too worn, too hollow, as if an eternity of anguish rested in her gaze. Why are you here? The man on the ground spat, finally breaking free from the millionaire. He scrambled to his feet, breathing heavy. You shouldn't have returned. This is not your fight. Everything is my fight when it comes to her. The mother's voice rang out, steady but suffused with anguish. You don't understand what you're playing with. The girls sensed a storm brewing between them, a whirlwind of old conflicts rushing to the surface. The way the man's eyes narrowed, and how the mother's shoulders squared, it felt like the air was charged before a lightning strike. Enough. The millionaire barked, scrubbing at the sweat beading on his forehead as he pushed himself between them. This isn't just about you anymore. We need to work together to protect her from whatever shadows you've unleashed. The glow of hope began to wane as uncertainty painted the scene. The crowd buzzing around them had morphed from spectators to hungry vultures anticipating a climax. Murmurs rippled through the bodies, questions and suspicions snaking through the gathering like dark smoke. Protect her. The man mocked, his laugh twisted and wild. You think that she is safe here? This isn't just about you or your lost child. It's bigger. It always has been. With that, he lunged again. Adrenaline surged in the air, and the little girl felt it thrum through her veins. "Mom!" she cried, a sharp edge to her voice as she reached for the woman who seemed to embody both strength and vulnerability. The impact of the moment struck like thunder, reverberating through the gathered masses. The mother rushed forward, but it was too late. The millionaire had seized the man by the throat, wrestling him back before he could lay hands on the woman or the child. "Don't you dare!" he roared, his eyes fierce with protectiveness. "What I control is formidable. You think you can disrupt the balance so easily? Not on my watch." But the shadows thickened, swirling with unseen malice as the man laughed dark, resonant, like a fool on a stage. "You think you can control fate? You're just a man in a suit, playing God. Let me show you the true depths of this darkness." Then, with a sudden, fluid motion, he pulled something from his pocket, an object that glinted ominously under the fading light. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The little girl's heart pounded in her chest. What did he have? The mother's eyes widened in horror, her voice shaking. "No. You wouldn't tea." In that heartbeat, everyone felt the air shift, a tangible sense of dread clung to them. The moment hung pregnant with uncertainty, and that promise of darkness loomed over them like a storm cloud. What had she come back to? What bonds were about to be shattered? As that question echoed in the crowded park, the whispers grew louder, threatening to consume them all. Would they find the light, or would they be swallowed whole by a dark past that refused to die? The object flashed in the setting sun. It was a small metal box, intricate and ornate, with symbols that danced across its surface. The crowd leaned in, their faces twisted with curiosity and fear. "Is that the millionaire's?" voice faltered, just for a moment, but the command returned to his tone as he pressed the attacker harder against the ground. "What have you done?" The man revealed a sneer that twisted his features grotesquely, his laughter echoing louder, blending with the rising tension. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, do you? This isn't just any box. It's a key to unleashing what you've kept buried for all this time." "Mom." The girl cried again, panic clawing at her throat. Her mother met her gaze, desperation flooding her eyes. "You need to leave, sweetheart. Now." But the shadows thickened, crawling closer, as if they had a life of their own. The air grew heavy. Whispered conversations resurfaced among the crowd, threads of half-remembered stories hinting at darker secrets long hidden. They murmured of cursed legacies and unspeakable horrors, casting glances at the girl whose fate hung in the balance. "Fate isn't controlled by men in suits," the man spat. "It resides with those who dare to reach for it. I've waited too long for this moment." The crowd briefly erupted into chaos, gasps and shouts erupting in a cacophony. "What does he mean?" someone shouted. "What dark legacy?" The millionaire tightened his grip, his face a storm cloud as he studied the box. "You think that by using this, you'll take what's mine? You're wrong. The only thing you'll get is a swift end to this madness." Suddenly, the mother stepped forward, her silhouette radiant against the deepening twilight. "No. Stop this now. This isn't about power or vengeance, it's about her." Before anyone could react, the man laughed again, flicking the box open with a quick motion. A burst of shadow erupted from within, tumbling through the air like tendrils reaching for something unseen. "No." The mother screamed, but it was too late. The shadows twisted, writhing around her, pulling tight and fast, bearing an unnatural weight. The girl felt her chest tighten, her breath a shuddering mess. "Mom!" she screamed, but it came out as a whisper. The shadows shimmered sharply, clutching at her parents, and the world around her dimmed, swallowed by impending darkness. "Let her go!" shouted the millionaire, desperation clawing at his throat. His powerful voice sliced through the chaos. He surged forward, bringing all his force against the man who wielded the shadows, grappling once again, then silence fell, thick and heavy, as shock blanketed the crowd. For a moment, the entire park seemed to hold its breath. What binds exist between these players, and what dark truths lay trapped beneath the surface? As the combatants fought, the little girl stood frozen, her eyes wide with fear and confusion, unaware that the shadows were more than a mere threat, they were a manifestation of a past she was about to uncover. And somewhere in that darkness, an unsettling revelation flickered, a betrayal lurking in memories long past, waiting just out of reach. The darkness held the answers, but would the girl dare to dive into it to rescue her mother? What sacrifices awaited as echoes of history threatened to rise once more, clawing for the light? The shadows danced around her mother as the struggle intensified. The girl felt frozen, terror gripping her heart. Was this how it would end? Her eyes darted around the park, searching for any signs of help. The millionaire's fury surged like a roaring river. He grappled fiercely with the shadowy man, muscles straining as he attempted to break free from the vice grip of panic. "Stop this. You have no idea what you're unleashing." He was shouting now, desperation merging with authority. The crowd was thick with anxiety, gasping, whispering, eyes shifting from the shadows to the struggling figures. "Do you see it?" The man hissed, his voice sharp and taunting. "The history spiraling out of control. This isn't just about you, and it's definitely not about a mere girl." He leaned in closer, eyes glowing in the dim light. "She is the key. Those shadows crave her. MOM." The girl screamed again, her voice a raw cut through the dreadful atmosphere. The shadows glinted ominously, wrapping tighter around her mother. "I can't hold on." Her mother gasped, fear stretching her voice thin. It was the girl's worst fear made real, tearing at her composure, fraying the edges of her resolve. Amidst the chaos, the crowd began to murmur louder, weaving stories of sacrificial bloodlines, of families crushed under the weight of curses they could never escape. The little girl opened her mouth, tasting the bitter tang of disbelief and terror. But then, something bright flickered inside her, a glimmer of stubborn hope. "No. You can't have her." She screamed it with all the strength of a child's heart, powerless yet fierce. The shadowy man's sneer widened. "And what will you do about it? This is bigger than you can imagine." In that moment, the girl felt a crack in the shadows. Something was shifting, a rush of power stemming from her own conviction. She imagined reaching out, wrapping tendrils of light around her mother, pulling her back from the brink. And to her own surprise, she felt warmth blooming in her chest, a flicker of something other than fear. "Fight it. Please." She shouted, her voice wavering but fighting to remain steady. The shadows hesitated. For a heartbeat, the air changed, tension tightly wound before springing in an unexpected direction. "Let go of her." The millionaire thundered, pulling hard against the dark figure, face twisted with determination. But the man was laughing, sly and cold, as if the chaos was some grand spectacle meant to entertain him. More gasps erupted from the crowd, punctuated by urgent whispers. "What is happening? Is this real? Can they stop it? Your wills clash, but I control this," the dark man declared, eyes glinting maliciously. "If fate resides with daring souls, then very soon, we'll see just how daring you truly are." Sweat dripped from the millionaire's brow. He was straining, every muscle engaged in the fight against encroaching darkness, but it was clear he was fighting against more than one man. He was challenging fate itself. "Together. We can break it." The girl felt it, a tether binding her soul to her mother's. "We can beat this." Suddenly, the shadows let out a howl as the shadows rippled. The stir got the attention of those closest to the struggle. Increased murmurs surfaced, waves of concern crashing in, and the crowd began to move in closer, shadows growing lighter momentarily, flickering in anticipation. She could feel it building, that radiant warmth transforming the darkness. But would it be enough? The shadows writhed, seeking to reclaim their hold. The $1 million deal, the family secrets, the collector's curse, they all tore at their foundation. Would the truth emerge, or would they all be consumed in this struggle against the malevolent force? All eyes were locked on them, the world holding its breath, teetering on the edge of an uncertain fate. Would the girl tap deeper into her own strength? As shadows twisted and coiled, a decision loomed, dark and heavy. What truth would the darkness demand from her, just as the shadows sought to entrap them all? The shadows recoiled, but only slightly. Still, it was enough to see the sudden flicker of panic in the dark man's eyes. The girl felt it too, a light clawing its way through the depths of despair. We have a chance, she thought, clinging to a fragile hope that somehow felt real amid the tumult. "Mom." She cried again, louder, more demanding. Her voice cut through the whispers crowding around her. The world felt like it had paused, the air thick with tension that crackled like electricity. The millionaire, his face shadowed yet fierce, pulled against the man with every ounce of power he possessed. Little did they know, that the girl's spirit was now lending strength to his struggle. With each desperate plea, the shadows twisted, as if caught between two worlds. "This isn't just about you," the man hissed, voice dripping with disdain. "It's a bloodline. Your heritage is steeped in darkness." He seemed to relish the chilling memorization of twisted family ties, a gloating captive of their shared history. The girl felt a tightness in her throat. Bloodline? What did that mean? Had she always been marked? A sense of dread washed over her, mixing with the flickering light of her hope. Her gaze fixed on her mother, her heart racing faster with each passing second. How could they be ensnared in this curse when all she wanted was to embrace her family, free from shadows? The crowd was a living entity, breaths locked in their chests as they grasped the emotional thread running between them. "No. She can't be the key," someone whispered, wide-eyed and shaken. Others echoed, thoughts racing in the air. "What do we do? Is this really happening? Get away from her." The millionaire's voice thundered again, desperation giving a primal edge to his roar. He pushed harder against the shadowy figure, but it seemed the darkness only tightened its hold. "More than just strength is required here," the man snarled, tightening his grip. "You cannot fight destiny." The girl's heart sank as darkness wove its cruel spell. Yet even as despair settled in her chest, something within urged her forward. "Mom, hold on," she called out, channeling every ounce of her being into her words. She felt her connection to her mother stronger than the shadows. "You're my light. Fight back." The shadows shifted, as if momentarily confused. "Light? A flicker? You think that will save you?" The dark man let out a cruel laugh, echoing through the park, snatching at the edges of her sanity, but then, the warmth bloomed again in the girl's chest, filling her with renewed vigor. "Together," she shouted. "Together we are stronger than you." With that, a brilliant flash ignited from her heart, illuminating the shadows dancing dangerously around. The crowd gasped, stunned into silence. Did they see it too? The glimmer of defiance brushing against the panic, the darkness writhed violently, letting out an ear-splitting howl as its grip faltered. For the first time, the shadowy figure's confidence wavered, if only for a moment. If they were truly keys to a much larger story, then they needed to uncover the secret buried deep in the darkness. Suddenly, through the shimmering light, something stirred, something ancient and powerful. A voice echoed in the girl's mind, whispering secrets hidden for ages. Face the truth, embrace the past. What had the shadows been guarding all along? Every gaze turned toward her, brimming with urgency. The shadows might not be the only danger looming in the park. Flickering glances revealed an unexpected twist. In the eye of the storm, there was something more frightening than anyone had ever imagined. Was the girl, entwined in a battle against a shadow, actually being drawn deeper into a more sinister game? The girl's heart pounded in her chest as the truth loomed ahead, ready to strike anew. Would she uncover the answers she sought or plunge into an even darker truth? The light expanded, punching through the gloom, revealing faces twisted in fear. Gasps flitted through the crowd, each breath stuttered and nervous. The girl could feel the fading grip of darkness around her, but it wasn't enough. Time was slipping away, and beneath that flickering hope lay a nagging doubt. What truths lurked in the shadows? What lay ahead if she truly faced it? Do you dare to fight destiny? The man taunted, his voice now a gravelly echo that sent shivers up her spine. The shadows around him pulsed with a malevolent energy, as if they drew life from his words. With every ounce of courage she could muster, she clenched her fists. "I'm not afraid of the truth," she yelled back, her voice steady, cutting through the thick atmosphere. Yet, even as she spoke, an icy wave of uncertainty crashed over her. What was the truth? Suddenly, the shadows surged, retaliating against the brief glimmer of hope she had sparked. Tendrils of darkness waved like snakes, inching closer, seeking purchase on her skin. The chill of it seeped through her, freezing her resolve for a heart-stopping moment. "Mom!" The desperation in her voice carved its way through the chaos. She could feel her mother fighting, the same spirit illuminating their shared bloodline, one steeped in struggle and survival. In that fractured heartbeat, a flicker of understanding dawned. Her mother was more than just a memory, she was a beacon. "Focus on me." Her mother's voice rang through the fog. The girl felt warmth flood her core as she basked in that connection once more. "We can defeat this together. Find your strength." The shadows writhed, tension thickening the air, the anguished whispers joining in a maddening chant. Bloodline, they cackled in unison, their words battling against her growing light. "You think you can escape what you were born into?" A heavy silence blanketed the park, a pause pregnant with uncertainty. For a moment, everyone stood still, balancing on a knife's edge. The crowd was a living pulse, hearts beating in unison, a collective breath caught in their lungs. "Something must give," the dark man sneered, adjusting his grip as he prepared to tighten the noose around the girl. "You're only a child, unprepared for the depths of your lineage. Give in now, and perhaps you'll find peace." Peace? What kind of peace could come from succumbing to darkness? Rage bubbled within her, and it ignited her spirit once more. "I won't give in," she shouted, channeling the strength of those around her. Suddenly, the space filled with a crackle of energy, a luminous sphere radiating from where the girl stood. Light danced, weaving through shadows, reflecting off faces filled with wonder and fear alike. The girl pushed harder, as if her will alone could sever the chains that bound them all. "Together!" She cried again, the words reverberating like thunder, stirring the air. "Together, we break the cycle." And just like that, the shadows recoiled, a beast wounded. The man's expression twisted into something more furious, eyes burning as he faltered, unable to grasp control. But the girl felt the moment slipping. She needed something, some insight, to seize the full power swirling around her. Then, she felt it, a deep whisper curling around the chaos, sounding familiar. "Trust your heart," it urged. Was it her mother's voice again, or was she grasping at something deeper? Suddenly, the dark man lunged forward, fueled by anger. The shadows surged with desperation, and she had mere seconds left. What if he was right? What if her bloodline shackled her forever to this darkness? But deep down, a fire flickered defiantly against that fear. "Show me!" she shouted into the depths, embracing the unknown. "Whatever is hidden, let it be revealed." Bright light exploded from her, enveloping her in warmth as the shadows screeched in agony. But was it enough? She felt a sudden pull, an urgency that tugged at her heart. Just as something surged to the surface of her mind, a tremendous force threw her off balance. With a scream that ripped through the night, she fell forward, colliding with darkness. Ready to discover the secrets that awaited in the shadows, what other horrors lay in wait as she ventured deeper into the unknown? She tumbled into an abyss of swirling blackness, her heart racing, pulse pounding like drums in the chaos. The shadows coursed around her, thick as fog, wrapping her in a sinister embrace. A cacophony of voices echoed in her mind, taunting, whispering, and snarling. It felt suffocating and overwhelming, like standing in the eye of a hurricane. As she spiraled deeper, images burst forth, faces, places, moments from her life, all flashing by in rapid succession. Her mother's smile, her first day at school, laughter shared with friends. But then came the darkness, the hauntings, the echo of screams, her father's anguished face, shadows creeping at the corners of her memory. "No!" she cried out. "I can't let you take me." In that desperate moment, something shifted within her. Fear gave way to determination. She focused on her mother's voice, resonating like a lifeline. "Trust your heart." It was a steady beacon in the swirling shadows. So she reached out, not just with her hand but with every fiber of her being, and suddenly, she was standing not in the dark depths but on solid ground. A circular clearing emerged, vibrant with swirling light infused with colors she had never seen. The shadows shied away, flickering at the edges as if terrified of this new brightness. She stood tall, feeling the warmth surge within, rising up from the core of her being, but the dark man was still there, lurking at the fringes. His eyes, glowing with rage, were locked on her. "You think you've broken free? You're still just a child." He stamped his foot, and the ground quaked beneath her. Shadows lunged forward but halted inches from her light, hissing like wounded animals. "Child? No." She shook her head defiantly. "I am the descendant of strength. I will not allow you to dictate my fate." With renewed power coursing through her veins, she extended her hands, summoning the light towards her. It was warm and bright, a fierce expression of her will. The ground beneath her feet vibrated with energy, and she could sense others gathering behind her, faces peering through the darkness, drawn by her light. "Together!" she shouted, and the voices surged behind her, amplifying the call that resonated through the darkness. "Together, we can break this curse." The energy crackled, radiating outward. Slowly but surely, the shadows trembled, recoiling as if caught in a solar flare. The dark man stumbled back, his sneer faltering. She could feel his panic, it was almost palpable. Then, with a flash, the faces behind her became clearer. It was the crowd from the park, their energy intertwining with hers, their fears and doubts melting away in the wake of this unity. The girl watched as their individual lights merged into one blazing force, a radiant wave that surged toward the dark man. "No!" he howled, raising his hands in front of him, a futile attempt to shield himself from the encroaching blaze. The ground shook violently, and with a burst, the shadows dissolved into wisps, evaporating into the ether as the collective light consumed everything, but just before the man disappeared, his furious gaze locked onto hers, and an unsettling smirk appeared. "This isn't over, you don't know what you've awakened." The clearing began to fade, the radiant essence of warmth dimming, and she felt herself being pulled back. Darkness threatened once more, swirling around her. "Mom!" she yelled, panic rising within her. Just as her world collapsed into shadows again, she saw a flicker of light, something slipping through the veil of darkness. What was it? A memory, or perhaps a key to unlocking her destiny? Where had the dark man gone? And what had he meant by awakening something? The uncertainty twisted inside her, propelling her forward as she braced herself for what lay ahead. The true battle was only beginning. In an instant, the chaos of swirling shadows folded away, revealing the park once more bathed in the crimson hues of twilight. The crowd stood in stunned silence, eyes wide, breaths held at the precipice of fear and hope. The air buzzed, electricity coursing through the collective pulse. The little girl blinked, her heart pounding in her chest as she stood rooted to the ground, still clutching her tattered teddy bear. "Mom!" she cried again, voice hoarse with emotion, desperately scanning the familiar faces of those around. And then she saw her, emerging from the lingering haze, eyes wild and glowing. Something stirred deep within her gaze. "Sweetheart!" Her mother reached for her, breaking through the silence with a trembling urgency. The space between them flew open, collapsing into a powerful embrace that felt like a warm shield against the world. The crowd gasped, whispers trailing like shadows dancing in the corners of their minds. Nobody moved, all eyes glued to the reunion bathed in shimmering light. The little girl could barely breathe, overwhelmed by a swirl of emotions. Love thrummed through her veins like a beating drum, drowning out the echoes of chaos they had just escaped, but as they pulled back, tears glistening in her mother's eyes, a dark shroud lingered in the air. "They know now," her mother whispered, voice breaking ever so slightly. "The shadows aren't just gone. You've unlocked something unresolved." The $1 million man stepped forward, bloodied yet resolute, brushing dirt from his tailored suit, his eyes piercing through the remnants of dread that hung heavy. "You fought bravely," he said, voice low and steady. "But it's not over. We have to contain this secret." Confusion pierced the girl's heart as she looked back and forth between them. This man was meant to be their protector, yet the shadows had slipped into their very fabric. "What do we need to do?" she demanded, wading through her own swirl of uncertainty, hands trembling as she clutched her teddy bear closer. He turned, meeting her gaze with a strength that bolstered her own. "You must face what comes next together. This lineage, this history is intertwined. They will come again." Little shivers danced down her spine. She had just begun to grapple with the weight of shadows, and the heaviness of truth felt like a physical presence. The words of that dark man echoed in her mind, the awakening. In a moment, stitched together by urgency and fear, the air shifted again. Whispers escalated, rising like a crescendo in the background. The people crowded close, their faces reflecting a mosaic of anxiety, curiosity, and some underlying strength. It was a collective force. They were all tied to this moment now. The mother knelt beside her daughter, taking the small hands into her roughened yet gentle grip. "We will face it together, no matter what," she assured, warmth flooding the girl's heart. And for a moment, it felt like they could conquer anything as they stood united. The millionaire called forth the onlookers, voices overlapping in a breathing pulse of solidarity. "Let us harness this strength. If secrets lurk beyond shadows, we need to arm ourselves with truth together. Together." The crowd echoed, voices merging into one blazing entity, an army against the shadows. Energized murmurs radiated like waves crashing against the shore, binding their spirits and worries, giving them volume. The girl felt an overwhelming power swell from within her heart, ignited a fire far brighter than the shadows' clutches could ever hold. They would face whatever was lurking, whatever truths lay embedded in the dark legacy that haunted them. "Are you ready?" her mother asked, eyes shimmering with determination. "Yes." The girl shouted, conviction erupting from her core. In that moment, she knew she wasn't just a child caught in a storm of shadows. She was the light their family had desperately needed. As they turned towards the looming darkness again, the park seemed to breathe in slow tempo, a palpable anticipation electrifying the air. Shadows might loom, but with every heartbeat, they would push back against the dark, and then, in a flash of illumination, they stepped forward, onto an unknown path forged by courage, love, and the haunting echoes of their past. Their journey was just beginning, but she knew whatever awaited them, they would unravel the truth. Together they'd fight, united against the encroaching shadows, unleashing the light within each of them. Now, that was their destiny. This is the moment to show your support. If you want to be part of these epic stories that change lives, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't miss any future adventures. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it really boosts our community. Also, flood the comments section with your reactions and thoughts about this thrilling conclusion. Your voices matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing ending. This journey is just getting started.